You lovingly harvest your potatoes or meticulously pick out the best ones at the market, only for them to turn into a wrinkled, sprouted monster a couple of weeks later. Sound familiar? Today, we are going to solve this problem once and for all. I'm not just going to give you a couple of quick tips. I'm going to reveal the complete system for storing potatoes for months, so they stay as firm and delicious as the day you bought them. Most importantly, you'll find out why they turn green and sprout in the first place, and what hidden danger that actually poses. By the way, tell me in the comments where you usually keep your potatoes. In a pantry, on a balcony, or maybe you have a genuine root cellar. Let's find out which method is the most popular. Before we get to the secrets, let's understand our hero. A potato tuber isn't just a vegetable, it's a living organism in a dormant state. It has its own mission, to survive the winter and start a new plant in the spring. That's precisely why it's so eager to sprout. And the reason it turns green is light. When exposed to light, the tubers start producing chlorophyll, just like leaves do. Chlorophyll itself is harmless, but it brings along a sneaky companion, solanine. This is a toxic substance, a natural pesticide the plant uses to defend itself against pests. In large doses, solanine is dangerous to humans. Our goal is to trick nature. We need to create conditions where the potato thinks winter isn't over yet, keeping it in a deep sleep without accumulating these toxins. So the first and most crucial factor we need to talk about is temperature. Picture the sweet spot, the ideal holding zone. For potatoes, that means temperatures ranging from 4 to 7 degrees Celsius. This specific range slows down the potato's biological processes to an absolute minimum. They essentially enter a state of dormancy, almost like hibernation. But if that temperature drops too low, say down to 2 degrees Celsius, you run into trouble. A chemical change occurs. The starch inside the potato starts converting directly into sugar. The result? Your potatoes will taste noticeably sweet, and when you try to fry them, they'll quickly brown and burn. Now, what if the temperature climbs above 10 degrees? The tuber gets a signal. Spring is here. Time to grow. It then starts actively sprouting, burning through all the stored nutrients to fuel those shoots. So, forget about storing potatoes near radiators or in warm kitchen pantries. You need to find the coolest possible spot in your house. Ideally, use a thermometer to keep tabs on this critical measurement. To visualize this, think of a traffic light system. Red means it's too hot, above 10 degrees. Yellow means it's too cold, below 4 degrees. And green is our perfect long-term storage range. The next crucial factor we need to consider is humidity. Again, we need to strike a balance, but this time between desiccation and decay. The ideal relative humidity for potato storage ranges from 85 to 95%. This is a fairly humid environment. Why so high? Potatoes are roughly 80% water. If the surrounding air is too dry, the tubers will rapidly lose moisture. They'll become soft, shriveled, and lose significant weight. Essentially, they just dry up completely. On the flip side, if the humidity is too high, approaching 100%, or if condensation forms directly on the potatoes, this creates the perfect breeding ground for mold, fungus, and rot. A single rotten potato can quickly contaminate an entire box or bin. That's why people storing potatoes in cellars sometimes use buckets of water to raise the humidity. If you're storing them indoors in an apartment, it's crucial to make sure the potatoes aren't suffocating in sealed, airtight packaging. Getting the humidity right preserves the firmness and crispness of the tubers, eliminating the risk of both drying out and disease. Think of it like a sponge. In dry air, it shrinks and hardens, but if it's too wet, it quickly becomes a breeding ground for bacteria. We need to keep the potatoes in that perfect, slightly moist state. Now let's discuss the number one enemy of good potatoes, the single factor that can turn a perfectly healthy food into a toxic threat. That factor is light. Absolute, total darkness isn't just a recommendation. It is the cardinal rule, the number one law of potato storage. As we've mentioned, exposure to light triggers the photosynthesis process inside the tubers. This produces the green pigment, chlorophyll, causing the potato to turn green. But, acting like a dark counterpart, the toxin solanine simultaneously builds up in and just beneath the skin. Even diffused light from a window or the occasional flicker of a light bulb in a pantry can start this reaction. The longer and more intense the light exposure, the higher the solanine concentration will climb. This is precisely why potatoes are always sold in opaque mesh bags or paper sacks, never in clear packaging. Your primary goal is to replicate subterranean conditions. This could mean a dark root cellar, a tightly closed cupboard, or a box covered with a dark, breathable cloth. Never store potatoes out in the open on a kitchen counter or in a clear storage container. Remember, green colouring on a potato isn't just a cosmetic flaw. It is a visible warning sign, a clear indicator that the poison content in the product is elevated. The illustration of this is simple and rather startling. Imagine a single potato where one half was exposed to light and turned green, while the other, covered half, remained normal. This demonstrates the direct influence of light perfectly. Let's not forget that even in storage, potatoes continue to breathe. Yes, they are very much alive and require oxygen. That's why good ventilation is the fourth pillar of successful potato storage. If you store potatoes in an airtight container, for instance, a tightly sealed plastic bag, they will quickly suffocate. Inside that container, moisture released by the tubers, along with carbon dioxide, will accumulate. This creates the perfect breeding ground for bacteria and rot. The potatoes will become damp, slimy, and spoil rapidly. Therefore, your storage containers must be breathable. Slatted wooden crates, woven baskets, mesh bags, or burlap sacks are ideal. Even if you store your potatoes loose in a cellar bin, it's crucial that there is space between the tubers for air circulation. Don't pile them up into dense, high mounds. Good ventilation helps carry away excess moisture from the surface of the tubers and provides them with oxygen, keeping them in a healthy, dormant state. Imagine a room full of people. If you close all the windows and doors, it quickly becomes stuffy and uncomfortable. Potatoes feel the same way when they are sealed up. Before putting your potatoes away for the long winter, proper preparation is essential. Many growers overlook this stage, and that's a huge mistake. The first step is meticulous sorting. Immediately after harvest or purchase, go through every single tuber. Ruthlessly discard anything showing damage. Look out for shovel cuts, pest traces, signs of disease, or rot. These wounded specimens won't last long themselves, but more importantly, they become sources of infection for the entire batch. They should be used right away. The second step, which is vital for freshly dug potatoes, is the drying and curing period. You must never place wet tubers straight from the ground into your cellar or basement. Instead, spread them out in a single layer in a dark, dry, and well-ventilated location, like under a shed or in a barn, for 1 to 2 weeks. During this time, the skin will toughen up, and minor scratches and damages will naturally heal or scab over. This curing process significantly improves the potato's shelf life. Only after this preparation is the dry, sorted batch ready for long-term storage. Think of it like preparing an athlete for a marathon. Without the proper warm-up and conditioning, achieving a good result is simply impossible. We touched on ventilation, but now let's dive into selecting the perfect container. Getting this right is half the battle. The absolute worst enemy of a potato is a plastic bag. They are airtight, they trap moisture, and they create a humid, sauna-like environment inside, which causes rapid rotting. So ditch the plastic immediately. What should you use instead? The ideal choice is wooden crates, especially those with slatted bottoms and sides. Wood is a natural, breathable material, and those gaps ensure excellent air circulation. Woven baskets made from wicker or other natural materials are also fantastic options, as they allow for superb ventilation. Another good solution is the mesh bags your potatoes are often sold in. These provide maximum airflow from every angle. Cloth sacks, like those made of burlap or thick cotton, are also suitable. They shield the potatoes from light while allowing the tubers to breathe. If you don't have specialised containers, you can use cardboard boxes, but you must make sure to punch plenty of holes in them for ventilation. The main principle when choosing a container is that it must be opaque to block light and highly breathable. If you were to create a visual ranking, the slatted wooden crate would be number 1 and the plastic bag would be dead last, marked with a huge red X. Let's debunk a widespread myth right now. Should you wash potatoes before storing them? Many home cooks aiming for cleanliness diligently wash the tubers, dry them, and only then put them away. It certainly feels like the cleaner, more hygienic approach. But in reality, this is a major mistake. You absolutely should not wash potatoes before long-term storage. Why is that? Firstly, the residual soil remaining on the tubers actually creates an essential protective layer. It helps maintain stable moisture levels and protects the skin from damage and drying out. Secondly, even after the most thorough drying, moisture can remain trapped in microscopic cracks on the skin, and any residual moisture is a direct invitation for mould and rot to develop. Nature has already figured this out. Potatoes are born and thrive in the ground, and they keep best when left in that natural, native state. You should only wash your potatoes right before you plan to cook them. For storage, they need to be dry and unwashed, exactly as you dug them up or bought them from the market. Think of an apple with its natural waxy coating. If you wash that off, the apple spoils much faster. The same principle applies to potatoes when we wash away that protective layer of earth. Have you ever considered that vegetables have friends and enemies too? The right storage companions can either significantly extend the life of your harvest or ruin it completely. Potatoes have one key adversary, the common onion. Never, and I mean never, store potatoes and onions in the same bin or even too close together. The reason is that onions release large amounts of ethylene, a gas known to stimulate ripening and sprouting. When potatoes are near onions, they receive a powerful time to grow signal, causing them to sprout aggressively, even if all other storage conditions are perfect. Plus, onions require dry air, while potatoes need moisture. Their proximity benefits neither one. So who makes a good storage companion for potatoes? Surprisingly, it's beetroot or beets. If you place a few beets on top of your potatoes, they will absorb excess moisture, creating an ideal microclimate and preventing the potatoes from rotting. This also helps the beets, keeping them from wilting. So, remember this simple rule. Onion is the enemy, beet is the friend. You can imagine a cartoon drawing where the mean onion makes the potato cry and sprout, while the kind beet shields it from unnecessary dampness. Sticking with the theme of how things interact when stored together, let's dive into an amazing yet relatively unknown storage hack. We recently learned that the ethylene gas released by onions actually encourages potatoes to sprout. But remember, as they say, the difference between poison and remedy is often just the dose. Your unexpected ally in the battle against sprouting might be the humble apple. Yes, apples also release ethylene, but in far smaller amounts than onions do. At this lower concentration, the gas has the exact opposite effect on potatoes. It actually inhibits or suppresses the growth of the eyes, keeping them dormant. This is a verified scientific fact. For this method to work, all you need to do is toss 1 or 2 ripe apples into your container of potatoes. They will slowly release the gas, helping the tubers remain dormant for a significantly longer period. It's important to check the apples periodically, say every few weeks, and replace them with fresh ones if they start to spoil. This simple, inexpensive trick can dramatically extend the shelf life of your potatoes. It's a perfect example of how understanding basic biochemical processes can make a real difference in our daily lives. Just picture the apple acting as a silent guardian, calming the potatoes and ensuring they don't wake up before their time. So, what if you don't have a root cellar or even a simple basement? Are apartment dwellers stuck buying potatoes just a couple of pounds at a time? Definitely not. With the right approach, you can easily set up suitable storage right in your regular apartment. The key is finding the coolest, darkest, and best ventilated spot available. An enclosed but unheated balcony or loggia is often the ideal solution. But we'll save that topic for a separate discussion. What about other options? Look for space in a pantry or hallway closet, making sure it's far away from the front door and any radiators. Sometimes the area under the kitchen sink works well, but only if there are absolutely no hot water pipes running nearby. You might also utilize the bottom drawers of your kitchen cabinets or a cupboard located against the coldest exterior wall of the apartment. The main rule is never to store potatoes openly in the main kitchen area, where temperatures constantly fluctuate and there's too much light. Even inside an apartment, you can usually find a corner where the temperature stays around 10 to 15 degrees Celsius, about 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. While not ideal, it's still far better than standard room temperature. Under those conditions, your potatoes should stay fresh for at least 1 or 2 months. Make sure you use breathable containers like a woven basket and cover it completely with a dark cloth. If you live in an apartment with a balcony, there's a fantastic storage solution, a DIY balcony root cellar. It's essentially an insulated box, like a large thermos, that protects your stored goods from both scorching summer heat and bitter winter frost. Building one is surprisingly simple. You'll need 2 containers, one larger and one smaller. The smaller one must fit inside the larger one, leaving a 5 to 7 centimetre gap between the walls on all sides. These containers can be made of wood or even sturdy cardboard. The gap between the walls of the 2 boxes must be packed tight with insulation material. Excellent choices for insulation include old newspapers, sawdust, foam peanuts, or rigid foam panels. You also need to lay down a thick layer of insulation on the bottom. The inner box should be equipped with small ventilation holes. Finally, the whole structure is sealed with a tight-fitting, insulated lid. Inside this box, the temperature will remain stable, preventing freezing even in harsh winters and ensuring it doesn't overheat during summer months. This acts as your personal mini cellar right on the balcony, perfect for storing potatoes and a wide variety of other vegetables all winter long. A simple step-by-step assembly diagram can clearly illustrate how to put this essential storage box together. Most people assume the fridge is the perfect catch-all spot for storing any kind of food. But when it comes to potatoes, that's a big mistake. Remember how we talked about the ideal temperature range being between 4 and 7 degrees Celsius, 4 degrees Celsius to 7 degrees. The temperature inside a standard refrigerator is usually much lower, sitting around 2 or 3 degrees Celsius. When exposed to that much cold, the potatoes trigger a chemical reaction that converts starch directly into sugar. As a result, the potatoes develop an unpleasant, sweetish flavour, which is especially noticeable after boiling or baking. What's more, when frying, these sweet potatoes will brown very quickly and may even burn due to sugar caramelization. Refrigerators also typically have high humidity and poor air circulation, which can easily trigger spoilage or rotting. So the general rule is simple. The fridge is not for potatoes. However, there are exceptions. You can temporarily store new potatoes with thin skin in the fridge for a couple of days, as they spoil faster than mature varieties. You can also chill potatoes that have already been peeled or cut, but we'll discuss that specific method separately. Imagine a potato shivering from the cold in your refrigerator and sugar crystals seeping out of it like sweat. That's essentially what's happening inside. Even when you follow all the storage rules perfectly, you might still open your pantry one day and find your potatoes have started to sprout. What should you do then? There's no need to panic and toss them all out immediately. If the sprouts are still small, white and short, no longer than ½ inch or 1 to 2 centimetres, you can simply snap them off. That potato is still perfectly safe to eat, although it has already started to lose some of its nutritional value and vitamins, diverting them into the sprouts. Once you remove the sprouts, you should use that potato as quickly as possible, ideally within a few days. However, if the sprouts are long, green, floppy, and numerous, that's a definite bad sign. This means the potato has given up most of its stored energy. The tuber itself will likely be soft and shriveled. The flavour and nutritional benefit of this product will be minimal. Furthermore, the concentration of solanine, a toxic compound, increases significantly in the potato, especially around the base of those sprouts. For this reason, it is best not to eat potatoes with long sprouts. If you absolutely must use them, slice off a very thick layer of skin and dig out the eyes with plenty of extra margin. Here is a simple visual rule. Short, white sprouts mean it's still okay to eat. Long, green sprouts mean it's likely dangerous. Let's take a closer, more detailed look at the dangers lurking in green potatoes. The solanine that builds up in them is absolutely no joke. It's a glycoalkaloid, and in high doses, it can lead to severe poisoning. Symptoms can include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headaches, and even neurological disorders. A concentration of up to 20 milligrams of solanine per 100 grams of potato is considered safe. However, in green tubers, that number can easily soar to 50 milligrams or more. The majority of this toxin is concentrated in the skin, just beneath the surface, and, most importantly, in the sprouts. Many people think, what if I just cut the green part off? This might work if the discoloured area is very small, but if you do attempt this, you must cut deeply, taking at least a centimetre of healthy-looking flesh along with it. If a significant portion of the tuber has turned green, the best thing to do is throw it out without a second thought. This type of potato is especially dangerous for children, as their bodies are far more sensitive to these toxins. And remember this critical point: heat treatment, whether boiling or frying, does not destroy solanine. Therefore, the only way to protect yourself is to prevent the potato from turning green in the first place, or simply discard the affected product. Picture a green potato stamped with a skull and crossbones, like on a pirate flag. That wouldn't be much of an exaggeration. So, what should you do if you discover that some of your stored potatoes have started to wilt, shrivel, or grow small sprouts? Don't rush to throw everything out. If the tubers are still firm, free of rot, and haven't turned heavily green, you can, and absolutely should, process them first. While these potatoes won't keep for much longer, they are still perfectly fine for a variety of dishes. Since they may have lost some moisture and become starchier, they are actually ideal for making mashed potatoes. They'll come out exceptionally smooth and fluffy. They also work great for potato pancakes, like latkes or hash browns, zurazi, or hearty casseroles. Essentially, they are perfect for any dish where the tuber's original ideal texture isn't the priority. The most important step is to carefully inspect every single potato before use. Snap off all the sprouts and peel the skin much thicker than you normally would, especially around the eyes. This is a smart way to save your yield and drastically reduce food waste. Instead of tossing them out, you can transform them into a delicious dinner for the whole family. Think of it as CPR for your produce. You might not be able to restore their pristine condition, but you can certainly give them a second, equally delicious life. We all run into those situations where we've prepped a meal and end up with a leftover half potato or a few extra peeled spuds. It seems wasteful to toss them. But how do you keep them fresh until tomorrow? Leaving them exposed to the air is a no-go. They'll quickly turn brown due to oxidation. This is where a simple short-term solution comes to the rescue: cold water. Simply submerge the peeled or cut potatoes completely in a bowl of cold water, then place the bowl in the fridge. The water cuts off the oxygen supply, preventing the potatoes from browning. Stored this way, they can last for 1 to 2 days without any loss of quality. Before you cook them, you just need to pull them out of the water and pat them dry with a paper towel. This method is super convenient if you like prepping your vegetables ahead of time for things like soups or stews. However, it is crucial to remember that this is strictly a short-term trick. If you leave potatoes soaking for too long, they will start leaching their water-soluble vitamins and starch, which definitely affects their flavour and nutritional value. So, use this hack wisely. Only use it to preserve potatoes for the next 24 hours or so. Just picture the potato taking a nice cold bath to stay fresh. That's essentially all there is to it. People have been passing down countless traditional methods for storing potatoes through generations. Let's figure out which ones actually work and which are just myths. For example, people often recommend layering potatoes with rowan leaves, ferns, pine branches, or mint. There's definitely some sound logic behind this. These plants contain phytoncides and essential oils which have antibacterial properties and can inhibit the development of rot and mould. Mint is especially effective. Its aroma truly slows down sprouting. Another popular technique is dusting the potatoes with chalk or wood ash. This method works too. Chalk and ash are excellent at absorbing excess moisture, drying the surface of the tubers, and creating an alkaline environment that is inhospitable to fungus growth. However, the advice to store potatoes alongside garlic to ward off pests is dubious and lacks scientific confirmation. So, while some traditional wisdom is quite effective and can be a great supplement to your standard storage rules, remember that these methods won't replace controlling temperature, darkness, and ventilation. They only help enhance the final result. Have you ever noticed how some potatoes can sit around for months, while others go bad within just a couple of weeks? It's not just about the storage conditions. The variety matters too. Not all potato types are equally suited for long-term keeping. Late maturing and medium-late varieties are the best for storage. Typically, they have thicker, denser skin, which reliably protects the flesh from drying out and disease. Plus, they naturally have a longer dormant period. Early maturing varieties, on the other hand, are meant to be eaten quickly. They have thin skins and are genetically programmed for rapid growth. If you're buying potatoes at the market for winter storage, don't hesitate to ask the vendor what variety they are and if they are good keepers. Some varieties famous for their exceptional storage qualities include Picasso, Atlant, Scarb, and Juravinka. If you grow your own potatoes, plan your planting ahead of time and choose varieties not just for their taste, but also for their ability to last. It's like choosing clothing. A summer dress won't keep you warm in the winter, and early potatoes simply won't survive until spring. Let's assume you've done everything perfectly. You've sorted and dried the potatoes, placed them in the right containers, and ensured ideal storage conditions. Can you now simply forget about them until spring? Absolutely not. Storage is an ongoing process that requires consistent monitoring. Make it a rule to conduct regular checks of your supply, ideally once every 3 to 4 weeks. Gently go through the potatoes, carefully inspecting the tubers. Your primary goal is to quickly spot and eliminate any problematic specimens. If you find a potato that is soft, mouldy, or showing signs of decay, remove it immediately. Just one spoiled potato can quickly contaminate dozens of its neighbours. You should also take out any tubers that have begun aggressively sprouting. These should be used for cooking right away. This kind of regular audit helps you keep the majority of your harvest safe and secure. It's similar to a gardener regularly inspecting their plants and removing diseased leaves to prevent the sickness from spreading. Your attention and proactive care are the best guarantee that your reserves will stay healthy until the very end. Finally, let's paint a picture of the ideal storage setup, the gold standard of conditions we should all aim for. Naturally, we're talking about the classic root cellar, but I don't mean just a hole in the ground. I mean a properly equipped facility. An ideal cellar must have supply and exhaust ventilation to ensure a constant flow of fresh air. The walls and floor should be well insulated to maintain a stable temperature between 4 and 7 degrees Celsius, 4 degrees C to 7 degrees C year-round. Humidity needs to be kept high, around 90%. You can achieve this easily by placing the container of water on the floor, or even scattering some damp moss. There should be absolutely no light sources inside, other than a portable flashlight that you only turn on for the duration of your visit. Potatoes should be stored in slatted wooden bins or crates, set up on pallets or risers to ensure proper air circulation from below. Different vegetables should be kept in separate sections, mindful of their specific storage needs and compatibility. A cellar like this is truly a harvest bunker, providing all the necessary conditions for your vegetables to remain fresh and healthy for months. Even if you don't have the luxury of a dedicated root cellar, understanding these ideal conditions will help you get as close as possible to them in your own setup, whether it's a balcony box or a basement closet. So let's recap everything we've learned. Perfect potato storage isn't magic, it's pure science. Darkness, cool temperatures, moderate humidity, and proper ventilation. These are the 4 foundational pillars that will keep your entire harvest fresh straight through till spring. And here's the crucial twist. Your arch enemy, light, doesn't just make potatoes look bad, it actually makes them genuinely toxic. Meanwhile, your unexpected ally, a simple apple, can be a genuine saviour against premature sprouting. Now you are armed with the knowledge to keep every single potato fresh, delicious, and nutritious. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future valuable tips. Now I have a question for you. Which of these secrets was the biggest revelation? Or perhaps you have your own time-tested, proven method for keeping potatoes fresh? Share it with us in the comments below. Let's build the ultimate potato knowledge base together.